You are listening to the Parkflyer podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Parkflyer podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Parkflyer podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends,
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And before we get started out here, we're going to give a shout out to A-Power Batteries.
A-Power.
A-Power.
Unmatched power, performance, and reliability. Power, performance, and reliability. A-Power Batteries. Make sure you grab one from rcbatteriesusa.com and put in your Parkflyer Podcast 10, PFPC 10. That will get you our discount. And let's see, who else? 3D Aero Ventures.
3D Aero Ventures.
Come
on, we gotta get a better jingle. Come on, people.
Jingle. That's true. Yep.
We need some help. We need some help here.
There you go. If you can think of a jingle, send one over to us. Forum doesn't mean a thing if it doesn't function. 3D Aero Ventures aircraft not only look good, they are engineered with the care and pride to fly great as well. Enjoy your flight, and don't forget to share your creations with the 3D Aero Ventures community. You can go to 3daeroventures.com, learn more about it. Build your own beautiful, functional, and 3D printable aircraft.
So we need that guy from that does the movie things in a world where
we can do that. I mean, if you don't like the way I introduced it, then we can actually have someone else do it. But yeah, and we can actually.
No, I'm just saying instead of maybe the music or whatever you want to call what we did.
We could do that.
You could say in a world where you need batteries, A-Power batteries.
Well,
apocalypse. In the zombie apocalypse, who are you gonna look for battery power?
A-Power.
Do you want something called Energizer, or do you want something called A-Power?
That's awesome. Well, we're going to give a shout out. One of our listeners actually got in touch with me and Bill down in San Antonio, and he asked about it, and I think he just ordered some too. So we're looking forward to hearing his report on what he thinks of the new 6-cell batteries that he's going to be flying in his EDF. And then, Mike, you were telling us earlier before we went on the air that you had a motor or something you put on your paramotor. Or something.
Yeah, so I put a new starter on my paramotor, and I powered it with two 2200 because that's what batteries I have.
Right.
2 3-cells, and I put them in parallel. I guess it would be. Mm-hmm. And that thing, it cranked it right over. It was awesome.
That's great. Well, good. All right. Well, rcbatteriesusa.com. Go in and put your Parkflyer podcast, PFPC 10. And what I failed to mention on the 3D Aero Ventures is if you are downloading a program, put in the word Parkflyer, and you'll get our discount as well. That'll help us out. So we appreciate all of the support that you give to our sponsors, and we appreciate them as well. So give them a try. Let us know how to.
Hey, Mike, I want to say this too. If someone wants to send a jingle to us, they can just call our number, 830-444-4943, and then do the jingle for us.
There you go. They can.
No, we could even just use their jingle voice. We don't even have to do our version of their jingle voice.
That's right. We could just play it.
Do it
even better. That's less for us to do.
Better. Speaking of our phone number, which is 830-444-4943. Steve Wattenberg up in New York, who has called us a couple of times, he sent us a Facebook page or a Facebook message that said, thanks to us, he's out flying his Hadron. And congratulations to him. Let us know, Steve, how it goes. You can either post it on our Facebook page or give us a call and let us know what.
Good luck. Good luck.
That's right. Good luck.
Is that the escape guy?
Yes. He does not like us.
That's
saying
been stalking
escape.
us.
I'm sure. And I just named him that too, so that's going to be even better.
So that's not nice. So here's the good news: is that somebody else posted. It's kind of funny. If you're not on our Facebook page, go to the Parkflyer Podcast Listeners Group. We have a bunch of good guys on there, and it grows every day. I get requests for people to join, but Steve and another guy were talking about going out and flying the Hadron, and he said it's a 3-cell. The other guy said it's 4S or no S. So that's
T-shirt time. That's a T-shirt quote for sure.
4-cell.
4-cell or no S.
It is a no S.
We should do that. 4S or no S.
Trademark.
That was awesome. So
Trademark.
Yeah, there you go. going to have to put it in there. So, well, this has been a really great time. We are going to touch today on one of our listeners, Philip Hinkle. We've had him on the show before. He actually came down to Arizona on a trip, and we got to meet. He came out to the field, and he flew my EDF, the little L-39. And
your L-39, that's right.
Out with me.
And plus, he also, didn't you meet him up there in Oshkosh? Oshkosh Bagosh?
No, I did not meet him in Oshkosh. He goes to Oshkosh on a regular basis, but this year they canceled it. So
I know that he was talking about that on our website. He was talking about that.
So he put a bunch of his little P-51 and some Mustang, or his Mustang, and some other airplanes out,
right?
And took a picture of him and said, "If I can't go to Oshkosh, I'm creating my own little one, and I'm my own air show." So. But he is very active in the RC community. I know he's out there flying. He's pretty active on our website. And he has a YouTube channel called The Casual Pilot. And he actually got, according to him, he got a Typhoon from someone. And as the story goes, or as he was telling us that if you watch his video, he'll tell you as well. But he said somebody was building it. The CG was all kind of off. And
wonky. I think the technical word is wonky.
And so the guy said,
Janky.
it feels really out of sorts. And he built it and then said, I'm not going to fly it. I'm done with it. And so he called Philip and said, hey, come get it. So Philip took it and said, hey, you can crash it with the rest of the people, whatever. I can crash it just as good as anybody else. And so he went out and did a little research and found out that when you put the battery in there, the CG moved back to the just behind right at the spar, which is usually where it is. And I don't know if you've seen the Typhoon. We'll post it up there, but it's got a big bulbous nose on it, and it's got that big scoop underneath the front of it, and it creates a lot of weight up towards the nose. And I guess the directions that they had gotten pretty much said that it should be on the leading edge, and that's usually not really.
That does not even sound right.
Yeah, it's not. And so, he did some research and realized that it should actually be back on the spar where it would normally be. And I don't think people understand, maybe they do or maybe they don't, but if you understand CGs, having it at the leading edge just means that it's incredibly nose heavy, and it will take a long time for the airplane to get off the ground. You can put as much elevator as you want, and it would still sit on the ground. Maybe you run off the end of the runway, but
that's right. It's now a car.
Mm-hmm. If you did get it to fly, I'm telling you, it would fly like it's wanting to come down, just in a constant dive. So he was smart enough to know, I think, between his experience and hearing us talk about it on the podcast, that they moved the CG back, and where he placed the battery moved it back there anyway. So I will tell you that most manufacturers of large quantity airplanes, FMS and Motion RC and some of these other great, manufacturers that are out there, they do manufacture them with a slightly nose heavy aircraft. And that's because if they put the CG in the tail section and it was really hard to fly, they wouldn't sell as many. So
right. I think you gave a classic example with Spencer with the F-16, right? Because
Correct.
the F-16 is inherently unstable. It's an unstable aircraft.
Correct.
It's not built to be stable and easygoing when you let your hands off the controls. It's meant to turn on a dime and just go wonky the minute you let go of it.
Right.
Because that makes it a great fighter plane.
Right.
Not a good docile trainer to be flying on.
And you couldn't really sell that type of airplane to the public and actually have them enjoy it because, they're not F-16 pilots that are flying them. They're, hobbyists. And so if you want to sell it, you have a little bit more of a nose-heavy, CG on there. And
right.
A prime example is our A-10s, right? The A-10s that we bought from Motion RC, they were slightly slightly nose heavy.
Nose heavy.
And when we moved our CG far enough rearward, it made for a totally different airplane. So now we do have, some very expensive Demon Cortexes in there that kind of help it out. But for most of the time, even if you didn't have the Demon, if you just slid it back a little bit, you just want it to be able to fly, hands off, with a normal CG. If you have a little bit heavier CG, that's good for a maiden. That way you can, kind of readjust it as you get more comfortable flying the airplane.
Right. So. And in fact, when we were down there for one of our for the air show, and Mike had brought down his night flyer, you would moved back the CG for him, and the aircraft handled so differently. Mike was like, "Oh, I don't know if I like this."
That's true. You weren't really happy with the fact that we were flying it at night. Because I did.
Well, that was very unsettling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, first of all, and then it was flying on the bubble, so
that's right.
It's not like I can see it. You guys could see it, but I couldn't see it very well in the sky. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even know when it was on the bubble. Like I couldn't even tell. Right. So for me, it was flying like sometimes tail heavy, sometimes not. It felt like it was all over the place. Sure. And of course, my heavy thumb doesn't help any of that either. Yeah,
right. You have to be a little lighter on the sticks if you have a rearward CG. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it was exciting is the word I'd use.
Exciting.
It was exciting.
Well, it is. It's a paradigm shift, and I understand, like you said, why the manufacturers do it, because 9 times out of 10, when you watch beginners or new people or just guys who've been flying for some time, they may be very heavy on the sticks when it comes to jamming it into the corners to make a turn, that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, when you trim the plane up and you give it to them where it's in the right configuration, and then they go to make a turn by jamming it, burying the sticks into the corner, and the plane flies out of control, or it's just way squirrelier than they're used to. It's a big, paradigm shift that you have to get, you got to get accustomed to. So, yeah. But once you get accustomed to it, you're like, hey, I barely have to move my thumbs. I barely have to touch the stick to make it do something.
So speaking of jamming sticks around on the, so I was going to ask. It made me think of that Cub we flew that one time at Electric Fest. How nice and docile that thing was. Was that with John? I think.
Yeah.
And
that's the E-Flight Cub.
Yeah, are they going to have a Electric Fest this coming up a year, or they got a COVID protocol, or what's going to happen? Do you know?
Well, it's still far enough out. Shannon hasn't really canceled it, this far in advance. But I think we'll have to wait until the first of the year. But so far, they're planning on one. I'm planning on one. I mean, I was fully expecting to, go out and fly. So I've taken that week off, and I'll be out there anyway. So I may have to. Wear a
realistically,
mask, but,
all they have to do is wear a mask. That's the only thing they would have to do. You're outside. So just wear a mask, and everybody should be fine.
So when we do our podcast, we'll be like this. We'll be like, "Hey, how you doing there, Mike?" And so everything's fine in here.
Well, we'll just have to sit 6 feet apart. We have long enough cords that if we push ourselves,
that's a good idea.
I was thinking we'd all put plastic bags over our head with the mics, and then we could talk normal.
Okay, you first. You put the plastic bag.
Exactly.
We'll see
show us how it's done,
lasts.
Jay.
Right? Yeah, just show us. So anyway, back to Philip. Philip got this Typhoon, and he put it all together, and he went and maidened it. And I guess during the maiden, he was trying to readjust the ailerons, got a little too slow, and he spun it into the ground.
Ooh.
And it pretty much came apart. He posted pictures on our Facebook page.
I did see those on there.
Yeah, I think you made a comment or two. And then he basically said he was going to, he goes, hey, my friends at the Parkflier podcast are always talking about, gluing this stuff together and using spackling and, making it look good again. And, he had listened to us talk about Spencer, blowing up his airplane and putting all the foam. So he decided to go ahead and give it a try. So this is his first attempt. And, I thought he did a really good job. He pieced all the, the airplane together. And he, glued it back, got it all kind of straightened out, and then he used some spackling, and he kind of explained how he did that. Smeared it all over, sanded it all out, and then painted it, and then he was going to go fly it. So, he wanted to videotape it. So the Casual Pilot, that's on YouTube, and you can see his maiden. But we're going to talk a little bit about it because I noticed that there were some things that in his little documentary that I kind of wanted to touch on, and I know he's a listener. So first things first is he glued the airplane back together and it looked really good. But there were a couple things that when he glued it back together, the canopy didn't quite seat like it should have. And then the wings didn't seat up like they should have. So I'm not really sure. I haven't talked to him. I just, kind of got some messages from him that said, hey, I'm going to try this out. And I said, hey, great. Let's, do everything and then let me see and kind of tell us how it was. But I know we've talked about it in the past. Maybe it's good for us to review it. But with the EPP foam, which is usually what that airplane is, it's good to relax the foam before you glue it back together.
It's not EPP. It's EPO.
EPO. Sorry. Thank you. And the EPO is a closed cell, so it's really tight and it's really easy to glue back together, and it fits just right. But a lot of times because when it crashes, it crumples. You need to relax the foam, and the best way to relax the foam is to do it with steam. And so, if you have a tea kettle or even just a pot of hot water, if you can boil it, then you can hold that. You can actually do two things. You can hold it into the steam until it gets warm enough to start relaxing, and you can actually see it relax. Or sometimes if you had, like in Philip's case, he had a big fuselage, he could have just dipped it in the hot water and let that, kind of relax a little bit.
I'm a dipper.
You're a dipper?
Yeah, I just jam that thing in there.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Or I just pour the water over it. Especially if it's a large fuselage like that or something. Sometimes it's just easier.
You can't see it if you're listening to our podcast, but I've got a steam cleaner, and it just has this little nozzle on the end, and
that's good.
It actually steams it.
That would actually work. That would be pretty good, and you can do your clothes. So yeah,
I can do a lot. And you get rid of the wrinkles. Yeah,
it's really not for the wrinkles. It was for my printer. But
okay.
Anyway,
okay.
I can use that steam, and it's really focused, and so I can just kind of steam it. I think I got it on Amazon for $30 or so, and it's not the highest end thing, but it does have a little connection, a couple of different connectors to be able to manipulate the foam.
Yeah, the nice part about that is it's small enough that you could jam it up into a fuselage.
Mm-hmm. You could.
Because that's the only reason why I'm a dipper or just pouring the water over it. And not to say that that's a bad thing. I mean, it does work. The bad part is that sometimes it may expand a little too much, or it may just, you have a little bit more control with the steam. Mm-hmm. It's just that sometimes it takes a little bit longer.
And for me, if you're boiling a pot of hot water and you stick your fuselage in there and you go too far and touch the bottom of the pan, you're pretty much going to deform it's going to melt the foam. I mean, the foam will melt in the hot water, especially if you touch the metal part of it. So it's got to just stay either in the water, or you can just focus that steam on it and it'll kind of relax. What's that?
That won't happen at all.
Oh, yeah. That won't happen.
Never happen.
No. Never. So having said all that, because he took two pieces, the front piece and the rear piece of the fuselage, and he melded them together. And, in my case, like I said, I haven't talked to him. He may have used the steam, but I'm going to probably guess he didn't, because those pieces were not sitting correctly. And had you relaxed some of that foam before you actually glued it together, then you could have fitted those, right as you put the glue together, you could have kind of fit it and make sure that it all kind of went together. And it also, you will use less spackling because you won't have big gouges gaps in it or whatever.
Yeah, that makes
big
sense.
Gaps. Mm-hmm. So, and then the type of glue that you could use, I know Gray's, excuse me, I know that, we've talked about different types of glues. Gorilla Glue is a okay to use, but it is a foaming glue, so it could push the fuselage apart. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very careful with that. Beacon's foam tack works real well, and I think Jay has used Quick Grip as well.
Right.
But the one thing I will tell you about Quick Grip, if you put Quick Grip together and push it and don't let it outgas, it can eat your foam as well.
Right.
So those are some.
And it depends on the EPO type of foam. Some are resistant and some of it isn't. But pretty much I tend to use that only on more plastic pieces, or if I'm not too sure of the foam, just EPP foam. That type of stuff. I never have a problem with that stuff.
Well, and as long as it's in an area where it's going to get air on both sides of it, I would never put it inside the wing and then shove something in there. It'll eat the wing.
Or it works really good.
Got to have air to it.
Like you rip your hinges off, the foam hinges. Yep. It works really good for that. just to dab that on one side and then tack them back together. That
because it's flexible.
Yep.
Right. Well, so yeah, he kind of explained on his video that he basically, glued this thing together, and now he's got it all covered in spackling. So here's a couple of different things. First of all, if you use a lightweight spackling, lightweight spackling works really well with water. So if you took a sponge and you wiped just like didn't get the sponge like soaking wet, but just kind of squeezed it out where it was nice and moist, and you rubbed it over the lightweight spackling, it will actually smooth out the spackling. So rather than sand it, you can sand it, but if you didn't want, like if you had a big chunk of it on there, you would want to sand it. But if you just had light pieces that you wanted to kind of form, you could use water, not a lot, but just enough to get it wet, and that would smooth it out for you. Now, I will tell you that just the up-close, video work that he did for his airplane, it looked fabulous. It really, really did look good. I think he was even impressed because it was his first time around, and we'll have to, get some input from him. But, for us, it's kind of an old hat, but for someone that's just trying it out, you may not know that it will work just as well with a sponge and water as it will with, sandpaper. Now, sandpaper will actually rough up the, the outside of the foam because the EPO foam is in a mold. And so that mold is really slick. They have a mold release agent on there, and so it becomes really smooth on the outside. And if you use sandpaper, it can rough that edge up. But if you use water, it won't rough it as bad. If that makes sense. Does it make sense? I think it
makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, once you get the spackling all done, then he mentioned that he was looking to paint it. And he didn't really have an airbrush, so I think he bought, a couple of $1 paint, and then he just kind of put them on there. He didn't really explain. I don't know if he brushed it on there. I think that maybe he sprayed it or brushed it, whatever the case may be. But the reason I want to bring that up is because Harbor Freight actually sells an airbrush. I think it's $14, and if you take a coupon in there, sometimes I can get it for like $12 or something around in there.
Okay, so once again, explain what type. Are we talking like the little dainty, airbrushes, or are we talking like the quarter mega, I got to paint my room airbrush from Harbor Freight? Which one are we talking about? So
they have both. They have a little airbrush that you hold in your hand. It's about the size of a pen, right? I mean, it looks about like this, and you kind of hold it like a pen, and then you push a little button on there, and it airbrushes. And if you're doing really fine detail work, that's a really good brush. It's inexpensive. I wouldn't put it on the. Mike used it. I think when he was at my house, he got to use it. But
yeah, when you guys were doing the your my gosh, I can't believe I ruined the plane because I smashed it up because I hated it so much.
You did. You hated it.
I got an award, and I got an award for it too.
You did. Yes. Yeah. So it's a multiplex. If that helps you out.
Yeah. Still can't remember.
Still nothing. Is it old, Mike? Want to help him out?
I like that you're letting him suffer through it. That's nice. It's a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser, right? Exactly.
It wasn't fun for me.
No.
Oh.
It wasn't fun for a couple seconds. It was fun for a couple seconds, and then it kind of went right to the ground. But yeah, Mike was able to use the airbrush on the fundraiser. So they do have a little one. It's about $14. Then they actually have a larger. It's a HVLP, high volume, low pressure, and it's more like a trigger. It's not like a little airbrush. It's more like a handheld trigger gun. But the good news is that they sell them that they come in different sizes. So they have one that's only like a 20 ounce, and they have one that's like a 64 ounce. The 64 ounce is the one that you would use for your automobile. It's okay. A big gun. It has a big can on the bottom. It's a siphon feed, so as you spray it, it's got a really wide spray pattern. But they also have a smaller one that works off an air compressor, and it's a gravity feed, which means it's got a little tank on top. It's only about 20 ounces, and that one has a much smaller spray pattern. So if you're going to spray like a larger area, like if you're going to spray the whole airplane gray, an airbrush would take you a long time to do that.
I can attest to that.
Right. So the HVLP gun that they have at Harbor Freight, I think runs, criminy. I can actually look it up real quick here. It runs about $15. and it's just a 20 ounce, and you can get it once again if they have one of the sales, you can get it for less. But as long as you have an air compressor, you kind of put I always put I call it an apple, but it's a filter, a water filter. So it looks like an apple. You can buy it at Harbor Freight too. It's about $3. You put that in your airline, then you put the airline into. All right, I come off my compressor with the apple, and then I put the the gun on the other side of it so that it draws water. So there's no water spewing out, the gun from the air.
Right.
And if you're going to paint like a wing or something like that, you can paint it all one color and just kind of spray it off. And if you tape it off, you can spray the wing again with this. You just switch out colors on it. So it makes really quick work out of it. There was a conversation between Spencer and Philip about the spray, and you can just walk out into your front yard, your backyard, and just spray it, and it will work fine. Philip mentioned that he's in a small home, and his house is a little smaller, his garage really non-existent. He doesn't want to get overspray on everything. But with that thing, just walking outside and spraying it on a nice not cloudy day, or with the sun's out, you can do just as good.
Or if you get a box. If you see a
big
old box, or you can go to Home Depot or something and buy like one of the moving boxes for like $5, and then you just kind of cut it open and you could spray right inside there if you're in somewhere smaller and you don't want to get overspray in your garage, and that'll help out a lot. And then you can just fold it back up and stick it in the corner.
Yeah, I sometimes, if it's a small, I actually have a couple of shoe boxes that have like a folding or like a hinge.
Yeah, well, I mean that's fine for small parts, but I'm saying if you're going to do a wing
or something,
if you had a wardrobe box, that
you do that. It's really easy.
Yeah.
So it's considered a paint booth, kind of a makeshift paint booth. You don't have to spend a lot of.
That's the weird technical term.
So
for
basically, you stand inside the wardrobe box, put it on your head, and then spray your piece. Is that?
Yeah, sure. No, you
okay.
You put the wardrobe box out. What I would do is that you want to have three sides to it.
Hang the piece inside the wardrobe box.
Just kind of hang it, and then you can kind of spray it.
So basically, you stay back from the piece and don't get paint on yourself. I like it.
Yeah,
it's a really good idea.
So one of the things about painting as well, and I know we've talked about this in the past, but a lot of guys, even with a spray bottle, or like a
rattle can,
if you get too close to it, you're going to cause spidering, and you're going to cause a lot of paint to go. It's much better to use a very thin layer and just layer it than to get on there and really kind of coat it where it's runny. So having that box with the hanger, and you just use a coat hanger and kind of hang your stuff, then you can stand a little further back and spray into the box. That spray will go in, and then the wind won't just carry it away. When I walk out with whatever I have, I can use almost a whole can just spraying a small piece, because I'm just letting it kind of vent in the air. Where if I was able to control where the spray
and plus
went,
you're in Arizona.
I
mean, the stuff is like the
but
paint
for me,
is
it
hardening
really
before it
matter.
even
I
reached the
care
piece.
At that point, I'm just painting something small.
Yeah. So my grass was red for.
But
weeks
if he was, I don't think he had. I think the what is.
I said my grass was red for weeks after I painted the ME 163 because I painted it all red.
Right.
That was my my spray booth, right? I didn't really have one; it was outside.
Right. Well, I can tell you that if you're using my fingers always turn, red or whatever when I spray it, as I get stuff all over my fingers. But the little airbrush and the bigger the bigger gun, they work really, really well. So it's good to have that kind of tools in your toolbox. For Philip, he didn't have those, and so I think he just used a little rattle can. But kudos to him, it looked absolutely fabulous. The repair looked really well, except for those two items that I mentioned. And then, once again, the casual pilot on the YouTube channel, he got somebody to run a camera, and he went out and flew it. So, I will tell you, go see the video, but it actually turned out really well.
Oh,
I don't want to spoil it, but It did. It looked really good. He flew it great. The ailerons were back where they needed to be, and I'm really, really proud of him because he could have just thrown it away, but I think with a little prodding from us, and he kind of mentioned, I kind of prodded him on the Facebook page, and I was like, dude, just slap that thing back together. It'll work. Then he, learned a new skill, and I'm all about that, learning a new skill.
Well, like we're always saying, don't be afraid of foam. So,
nope. Yeah, we have a little saying about foam, but we'll keep it kid friendly. So,
well, hey, we're on YouTube. We should be allowed to say that. So, what the heck?
That's right. You can tell everybody. Well, the good news is, though, I think having the skill and not being afraid of making these repairs. And then learning, kind of as you go, because this repair was the first one. The second one will be that much easier. And with the little steam and being able to kind of mold some of that back together, I think that, if something was to happen on, the next go around with whatever airplane he has, it may be that much easier of a repair. And as a result, his airplanes will last longer because now he won't be such afraid of, if something kind of gets dinged up on it, how to go about and fix it. But you can actually make a foam airplane look almost new again.
Oh yeah, much so. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a lot, and it's in my opinion, it's a lot easier working on foam planes than it is, monocoque and stick planes are a lot harder. So,
yeah, they are a little bit harder, especially.
Well, it's a different technique, and it's just
true.
As for what's the word I'm looking for? It's not that one's harder than the other one. It's that one's more forgiving than the other one, right? So what I'm saying is that with a monocoque and sticks, right? You have to have some precision. You need certain tools as for any job. But with the foam, let's say you just totally dink something up. Well, you could just add more spackle and just resand it. Let's say you messed that up, or maybe you took off too much of the you sanded off too much. Well, you sand off too much on a balsa plane, well, you got to kind of live with it. Mm-hmm. This one, just put more spackle on it, let it dry, and then try it again.
Or we've talked about this before, but, one of the things is that Pink Panther foam. They actually, it's called Foamular, I think is what it's called. It's from Home Depot, and it comes in a, like a 1-inch kind of thickness, block. I think. Right. I've got so much of it in my garage. I mean, it's just a big pile in a box. But I just go grab one of those and I just cut it out, and then I just cut a piece of the foam out and then jam the two together, and then you never know, and it works out really well. I mean, when I crashed the F-18, there you go. Jay has some right there, and looks like somebody took a bite out of it, but yeah, it is good foam. But I really like that stuff. It sands really well. It's very, very stiff, and you can actually, like on my F-18 when I crashed it, I actually cut the leading edge off, took that, glued that on, and then just formed it back to a leading edge. That's it. Good little section right there. But it's a great product. I really like it, and it does sand. Now, I would use actual sandpaper on that one. Probably something not real heavy. If you used 80 grit, you're going to kind of rip into it. But if you use something in that 120 to 300, you can just takes a little bit of time, but you can sand it down to exactly what you need. As a matter of fact, I think Jay, don't you have that little really lightweight glider that has the nose section made out of that stuff?
Yeah, sure do.
The I can't remember what it's called, a butterfly or something that you have. Anyway,
feather squared.
Oh, that's right. It's a feather squared, but it's actually a full nose piece that's made out of that pink foam, and we sanded it. It came out it was when they shipped it to us. It was a block, and we shaped it into. There you go. We shaped it into that little arrow piece and rounded all the edges, and then we were able to cut it out and put the receiver on the inside. So, and it's pretty stiff, even with that cut in there. Once you glass over it, because you can actually put fiberglass over it, and you can smooth it out, and it works really, really well. So I'm a really big fan of that pink foamular when it comes to repairing. So if you had a big chunk, Philip was pretty lucky. He had all the pieces together, and he was able to kind of just meld them, kind of put them all together. But I do know that, when we crash airplanes, sometimes chunks disappear. We don't know where they went. And so now I have a big chunk out of the wing or out of the fuselage, and there's a hole there. What do I do with that? I just, cut out of the hole to make it, accept one of those pieces.
Take a piece, like a spare chunk like this, and then
just put it right
cut
in.
out a rough piece that looks like it'll fit in there, jam it in there, take a razor, make it smooth or almost smooth, and glue it in. And if there's any points that are kind of chunky or holes or divots that are in there, then slap that spackle in there. Wipe it over like Mike said with the paper towel, get it semi-smooth, and then after it dries, with the sandpaper, good to go.
Yeah, and it works really well. I have repaired a whole bunch of foam airplanes with it. So, and it'll stick to pretty much anything. It'll stick to the EPO, EPP, the Blue Core stuff. Even the EPS, which is the beer cooler styrofoam. It's a little heavier than the beer cooler styrofoam, but if you cut the beer cooler styrofoam, you can match those together. They'll sand really well.
But you got to be really careful with that with that EPS foam, because the densities, the pink foam is way denser, right?
That's
so
true.
if you go to sand, like really, I got to smooth that out with the sandpaper. You just touch or look at the EPS foam wrong. I mean, you're, whoa! I just took off. I just sanded it down to nothing. Or it beads. It's very beady, so the beads pop. Will break apart really easy. And so
it's not as compressed foam as the EPO.
So you have to be real light on the sandpaper with that stuff. Right. You have to be really careful.
You're more interested in sanding the pink part of it than the actual other foam. Yeah. You're just trying to match it. So but you can lay something over it. I've actually put blue painter's tape over the top of the foam, and then sanded over the blue painter's tape, and then that'll keep it from really roughing it up.
That's a good idea. That's a very good suggestion.
Now, the one thing I didn't ask Philip, we really should. Hopefully, when he listens to the podcast, he'll kind of give us a heads up. But
what's that?
He paint matched it. He actually matched the paint. So I'm interested to see how he figured that out.
It's really easy. In fact, I read about it, I think in the AMA magazine. But basically, you let's say you had a foam chunk that's left over and it's painted, or you have the parts and pieces like in a bag. You walk into any paint store, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, and you walk up to the guy and you go, "Hey, I need paint to match X," and you show him the piece, and the guy will just grab it and he'll go over to the little scanner, scan it, and he'll go, "Oh, okay, we can match that paint," and give him 5 minutes, and they'll throw the pigment in there and give you a pint and give you exact.
Now that's pretty amazing.
It's quick and it's easy.
So I don't know if he actually went to Home Depot and matched the dollar paint that he bought, but I think he may have, just knowing the color palettes. I think if you put two drops together and kind of get it close, you can,
I guess you could do it old school.
His was
like
dark
that.
green and gray or something like that. Let's give it a shot. He didn't really talk about how he matched the paint, but I am interested in that. So maybe he can reach out to us and give us a post on Facebook again and let us know how to match the paint. But I give a shout out to Philip. He did a great job. I was really, really impressed for his first time around. It looked really good.
Well, I like I said, it'll be interesting to hear what he did because, matching with pigments or whatever, that's fine. But like I said, after I saw what now the technology that we have, I was able to go in and get all the paints. I needed 3 things of paint that I needed to be matched, got them matched, and I think I paid like $3 for a pint, for each one of the little pints that I got. And for less than $10, I was able to get three different things of paint and redo my plane, and it was perfect.
Now, the good news is that you're buying enamel paint, so it's water soluble, so you can actually thin it out with water.
Yeah,
which is always kind of nice. If you're using an enamel paint, water may not. Well, if you use a water-based enamel, you can. But if you use an oil-based enamel, you're having to.
Well, like I said, you can go in there and ask. You can when you talk to the guys and tell them what you're doing, they'll set you up for success.
That's true. So. Always easy to ask the professional, right?
Well,
or just send us a note. send us a note and say, hey, we got a question. So we'll be
well.
happy
Once
to
again,
try
we
it.
are dealing with somebody who's working at Home Depot, and their experiences may vary depending on who's standing there. If you got an 18-year-old millennial who barely wants to be there, he's surfing on his phone, maybe not so much. So
yeah, you want me to do what?
What? I think they can do that.
I think so.
They hit that thingamajig. Well, don't you just know the paint that you want? Isn't it over there?
Right. Well, so if you haven't seen it, go to the Casual Pilot. He has solicited. He's given us a shout out on his, his video once or twice. Telling us that we were the ones that kind of spurred him in that direction. So we do appreciate that, Philip. We're really happy that you got it back in the air. That you did a really good job maiden it. I think that the airplane flies fantastic. It is a retractable gear, so I think that's kind of cool too. And if you watch the video, he had a friend of his out there with a quad that got some chase video.
Nice.
As well. So yeah, it was kind of neat. So it looks like that airplane is going to be really fun, and sad that the guy had to give it away because he felt that he wasn't going to be able to fly it. But Philip, I think, inherited a good. I think it's an FMS. Typhoon. It's 1,400 millimeters, so it's fairly good size. You know what it reminds me of is the one that we had at the Electro Festival that we crashed, the 5-bladed one that you gave me.
Yeah, I know.
That was so sad. The Hurricane.
Hurricane. Yep, and I destroyed the civilian model as well. So
that's right. Yeah, that was a quick toss in the air. Yeah, boom. That was all she wrote.
Yep.
Now, I will tell you that most of the time, here we are talking about fixing foam. When Jay and I destroy an airplane, there is literally not very much left of it. If there's enough left to put it back together, we normally put it back together. The L-39, I've, put back together probably 5 or 6 times already, and it's still flying like a champ. But those two particular airplanes, they were beyond repair.
Right.
Now, beyond repair for us, if you gave it to somebody else, maybe they could piece that thing together like a puzzle, but it was not for us.
Yeah.
That thing was pretty much looked like it exploded. The main thing is
6 pounds after you added all the glue, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. By the time you had glue,
you just need a stick of glue. I used the whole bag.
That's right. A 10-pound bag of glue sticks, and he uses the whole thing. For my particular, was it the Hurricane? Yeah, I think it was a Hurricane.
Anyway,
so. What is the Rare Bear? I think it's
the 47 P-47.
No, the Rare Bear is the one. I think that's the F8. But this one was
F8.
the Hawker. It was the Hawker.
That's a Hawker
Hurricane. Yeah. Anyway, it was the Navy version. It was, I think it was a Canadian or something, but it had the big, looked really good. And but the prop came off of that. The motor mount dislodged, and so not only did the motor mount come off, but the propeller turned sideways and just like a buzzsaw through the foam, and then chewed through the electronic speed controller wires, and that was pretty much it. After that, the airplane just departed control flight, came apart, and hit the ground, rocks, broke into a million pieces. I think we were out there for 10 minutes trying to pick up all the pieces just so we wouldn't leave anything
That was
behind.
Pretty sad.
It was pretty sad. And it
was
flew
a good thing
really
I got
well.
Yeah, once we got it flying. But taking it off, it had a little bit of, remember, because it kept, it would get up and it would just around the nose, would come over. You had to be really, really gentle.
So that's pretty funny because on Philip's initial, the second, the maiden that he just did on this Casual Pilot video, he started to take off and the airplane just made a left turn and went right into the grass and set up on his nose. And I thought about you actually when you were trying to fly that that particular airplane because it was always you'd always like get it up on the nose and grind the prop down. So I was going to tell Philip you need a little bit more right rudder, which he figured out the second time around. As a matter of fact, he put enough right rudder to kind of go the other way, but it definitely got airborne. So,
I thought that was only on my fundraiser in the ME.
No,
I mean that ME is like a right angle takeoff.
Yeah, pretty much
for that thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the bigger the airplane propeller on it, the more torque you have on it. It's going to turn to the left. It's going to have that left turning tendency. So you're going to have to take off with a right stick. Just a little bit though to kind of keep it going straight down the runway. But once you get airborne and once you get the tail up, there's enough control. But when it's sitting on its tail wheel, you don't have a whole lot of airflow going over the tail. So you're trying to steer the tail wheel basically to keep it going straight. And then once it gets rolling, you can bring that tail, and now it's got control. So, but he did a good job getting it off the air, and it was a beautiful landing too. So I have to once again give him kudos. Nice job. We appreciate the shout out, and glad we could be of help when it came to repairing your airplane. So we're excited.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's any other listeners that have repairs that we can help out with or that we can see, we'd love to hear it. And I thought it was great that he included us in on the on that little he posted it on our Facebook page and gave us a shout out that we kind of given him the inspiration. So it's good. We're actually reaching out and touching some.
We were
of our
like
listeners.
a muse. We were his muse.
Yes, we're actually getting some of our listeners to participate. So that's kind of cool. Well, what do you guys got going on this week? Anything? Mike, you got some builds or something? You actually have a trip coming up that you may wind up with some airplanes.
Yeah. I'm going to go up to Alaska and visit family up there and may bring some planes back with me. That's right.
Very cool.
Don't know how many, but we'll see.
We'll see. It'll be kind of be good. We'll see what's up there and have to give us a heads up on what you're able to bring back. So, and then Jay, you got big projects back there. What's flying this week?
Let's see. Well, I'm probably going to be flying the L-39. That's going to be flying. I'm going to be flying the Hadron. I'm pretty much sticking that thing on 4S or no S. I think I'm going to get a little sticker to stick on that.
4S,
just because I enjoyed that so much. And then I'm just kind of like I said. I think I know. An update for the 3D printed plane. I finally got the part that I needed to fix the motor. And so basically, if you guys remember, one of the things that was holding me up was there were two little grub screws that were in there that held the shaft on. And unfortunately, the shaft pulled free. And the reason it pulled free was because on the motor shaft itself, on the other end, there were actually divots in the shaft so that the grub screws could go in and actually hold, and it wasn't just on the round stock. There was a flat spot that they could hold on to. Right. So they slipped, and the shaft was able to break free and destroy the plane, or at least destroy the cowl.
The nose, right?
The nose, right. So anyway, I basically was waiting on something to get the grub screw because I ruined it.
Stripped it out.
Nothing could fit in there, and it was all smoothed out. So I got a screw removal kit that was small enough and in millimeters that would fit that particular grub screw. It kind of sort of worked. I ended up drilling through the grub screw. I had to in order to get the bit in there to chew out and smooth it out so that I could back it out.
Right.
It didn't exactly work, but it basically I'm at a point now that I just said I think I'm just going to drill it out to 4 millimeters, and then I'm just going to get a tap and just tap it for 4, and then just use a 4 millimeter grub screw instead, because basically it got out enough of the old grub screw that it's still in the it's still in the grooves, and it's thin enough that it's still in there, and it's just almost impossible to get. It's still not breaking free, but it's not breaking up or it's falling out. It's still in there, so I'm just like, yeah, screw it.
So you're going to actually drill out the hole itself and retap it.
Yep, I think so.
Can you actually stick another grub screw down in there and get it to feed through the threads?
I haven't tried it.
Just use a wood screw. It's fine.
Just put a drywall screw in there.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, You could tell us all about that. when it comes to
You know, with
parking.
all the effort that you put in, you probably been better off just buying another motor.
Yeah.
Never.
I know.
What?
I got it.
I'm already in for a penny. I'm in for a pound.
I got to go buy a tap and die set, but not going to buy a new motor.
No.
And the
Well,
motor
because-
cost me $5. The tap and die is $35. So yeah, this is no longer just a.
And by the way, that tap and die set that's $35 is only going to last them one time
That's right.
anyway.
One use only.
Well, guys,
One use
you
only.
got to remember this is more of a pride thing. You know, by gosh, I'm not going to let a grub screw beat me.
We figured it out.
That's why we're Americans. People around the world don't understand this. This is what makes Americans great. That we will go out of our way to build a bridge just to go over there to return something that we could have got on a boat and went down the river. But no, that's taken us too long to go down there to do that, to walk up the hill when I could just build a bridge. I'll build a bridge so I can just drive over there.
Right.
Is that what that bridge to nowhere was all about?
Exactly.
That's it.
And that's
It was to somewhere. It was the airport. It would have been a useful
exactly.
bridge.
But that's what we're about. We just do, do we have to kill the enemy and could we just do it with one bullet? No, I'm going to drop, $150,000 missile and I'm going to shoot at that dude who's hiding behind that rock, who can't hurt anybody because he's a couple miles away.
We want to be absolutely sure he's gone. Though.
Exactly. Did it help us win the battle? No, but we got that guy.
Yeah.
So, hey, that's what we're about. So this grub screw, by gosh, it's not going to beat me, Mike. No way.
Yeah.
I have the
it's not gonna beat him.
technology. I have the
Even if
technology.
he has to
now.
throw $3,000 at that thing.
Exactly, $3,000, but I will win. And I'll get that plane to fly again. Even though I spent 5 times the money on that thing, as opposed to I could have built 5
Right.
planes with the money that I'm spending.
You
to
know what,
fix this.
Jay? I wonder if you could print out a 3D print grub screw that you could then try to drive into that space that you can't get those pieces out. Because maybe that'll push them along enough, and you won't have to worry about it because that's plastic. That'll come out again.
No, because like I said, it's basically I bored it out to where there's like just a thin, a tenth of the materials just coated right down the grooves that were in there. So
So now take the next size bit up or whatever, and then sort of screw it in there a little bit, and then pull it out that way.
you would think that would work, or at least with the screw removal kit, it would have caught, but it's not catching. So
That's crazy.
I just figured
I'd actually have to look at it and see. And I feel really bad for Jay because sitting in my garage right this second, exactly this second, if I was to walk in there, is a whole boat load of tap and dies for what he needs. And they were at his house, but I brought them home.
What?
Oh, that's
What
right.
are you talking about? I got the whole set
from San
I
Antonio.
even have the arm that drills down into it. The whole deal, man. It's a complete kit on drilling out that little thing. So, yeah, maybe you should spend $3 and send it up my way, and I could get the screw out. It'd probably be cheaper than buying the whole tap and die set.
Well, I'm going to get it
But
from
you know
Bang
what?
Goods,
You need
so-
one anyway.
Yeah, and then I'll have
Well,
it
there you go.
for the next time.
Like I said,
which will never ever happen again. That's the only
I
bad
always
part,
say it's better. No, I always say it's better to have the right tool for the job. It makes it so much easier.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
It's
Which is
better
why
to have the right tool than be a tool. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Jay's a tool.
I'm the tool.
That actually was a really good one, Mike. That was really just delivered perfectly, right on time. So
I'm making
That
shirts
was
with
amazing.
right now, so we're good.
that's crazy. Well, that's good news that you're at least working on that. I'm excited about finally getting it done. It's only taken 3 weeks to get the grub screw out. You'd have thought that bigger hammer or something. So. Did you try to heat it out with your TS100 again? Did that not work? The heat?
I did heat it up, and it worked fine.
Okay.
But it didn't break it free like I was hoping. Because I was just thinking the guy might have put some Loctite or something in there, or by expanding it anyway would just help with breaking it free, and it just did not.
If he cross threaded it, you're kind of hosed. It wouldn't have come out if it's cross threaded.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're to the point of boring it and putting a new tap in anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you get one of those pick sets like I have that has the real small pick? You couldn't get in there and just peel it out?
I tried. In fact, I did get a bunch of the stuff done, and I just redrove the shaft through there, and it kind of caught everything and bent it up, and I was able to pull it back out, and I got bits and pieces, but I never got a piece that was big enough to break off or to start it turning, and that's just the thing. It was just being difficult, man. So that's why I've come to the conclusion it's just better to drill it out and then retap it.
Yeah,
one size.
Sometimes you can just run the tap in there, and it will run through those things. Like you don't have to drill out to the next size.
Tap.
You just,
use the existing
you just get the tap for
Henceforth,
that size.
I need to get the
screw it
tap.
in
There's a little creature back there.
Oh yeah, I see him.
I'll have to censor that. I know what she's about to do.
Censor. Yes. Well, speaking of censor, there you go. She's looking at you.
Good girl.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I know this has nothing to do with the Parkflier podcast, but our house went on the market, this week, and we posted a bunch of pictures, and I posted a picture of the backyard. And anyway, we didn't really think about it, but we started looking at the ad, and she goes, "Oh, look, there's one of our dogs." And I started laughing because the other little dog, the one like you have, is out in the yard doing his business. And he blends in perfectly with like the vegetation. So when you first look at the picture, you don't see him. But then after a while, you're like, "Oh my gosh, look at that dog." He's like right in the center of the photo. So I had to delete it.
He's fertilizing.
He is. He was fertilizing. But it was pretty funny because he was just standing there, kind of looking at the camera. I totally posted this as one of the pictures to sell a house, but I took it down. So there you go.
That might be the thing that makes people know that real people live in that house.
It would say, "Hey, look,
these people are real. The people that live in this house are real.
Funny.
Here they are."
Exactly. Well, I just real quick worked a little bit with Spencer this week. We did some graphics work. He's putting his Rebel together, so we did some. We did a kind of a some paint masks for the Rebel. And I did the bottom part of it, so he came over and did a little bit of that. So that's what I did this week, and I got my cockpit for the jet, the L-39 jet. So I've been looking at how to put 2 pilots or whatever in there and see how that goes. So we'll post a picture of that and so you can kind of see it. But yeah, that's about all I've done this week. I've been working mostly. Because I took that big vacation, now I got to kind of make up my time. So I've been traveling a little bit more for work. But anyway, that's hard to believe. Our hour is up.
It is up.
I know. It's crazy.
So, Mike, anything for you for the weekend?
Nope.
Other than getting ready for your trip.
It's supposed to be rainy and nasty up here. The weather's been over the last week. It's
there's
been,
talking about something
really kind of crappy.
Typhoon, hurricane, something simple.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy.
Well, good time to take out your Polaris and go fly. That's what I was thinking.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, if there's water in your street, then just fly the Polaris.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why I like that plane for sure. It's one of my favorite planes.
Oh, good. Well, I'll be cruising through Dallas this weekend anyway for work, but...
oh, good.
Yeah, so if it's nice and nasty and rainy, then I'll be thinking about you as I'm cruising. I've got to go to Ireland, actually, so there you go. Going to go to Dublin.
All right.
It's kind of cool. So actually, by the time this podcast comes out, I'll actually have been back from Dublin, so I would have.
There you go.
I just got back from Dublin.
Maybe you can find out if they do any RC flying up there anywhere.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I'll have to look into that.
Except their controls are going to be all messed up. So.
They'll be backwards.
They'll just trying to warn you.
Do they fly on the other side of the sky, or how does that work?
The other side of the sky. They fly a right-hand pattern versus our left-hand pattern. No, their radios are actually a what do they call them? A 2 or a 1? I think it's a
mode 1. Yeah,
mode 1 or whatever. So the throttle's on the other side. Kind of weird.
Okay. So. I bet some of those people fly those mode 2 anyway.
I believe some of them do. And some of the guys over here, I know a couple of the guys in the jet world that fly mode 2, I think. Like the opposite.
Mode 1, you mean the other way? Yeah, with the
mode
throttle
1,
on the left.
Yeah, with the throttle on the left.
I mean the throttle on the right.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're saying we fly with the throttle on the left.
Yeah, so I think ours is mode 2, theirs is mode 1, something like that. Well.
Yeah, I'm a left-handed flyer, so.
That's funny. Well, we once again have to kind of wrap it up this week. I'm going to give a shout out to RC Batteries USA.com and 3D Aero Ventures. at 3drailventures.com. Make sure you visit both of our sponsor page. Give us a like. Go on to YouTube and our YouTube channel. Subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Ring the bell, and that'll help us out as well. So, wow. Hard to believe this.
Well, and leave a jingle.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
830-444-4943.
there you go.
There you go.
You can leave us a jingle as well. Let us know.
Leave a jingle. Yeah.
If you have a project that you've been working on and would love to hear about it, you can share it on our Facebook listeners page at the Parkflyer Podcast listeners group. Just send us a note to join and why you love RC, and we'll bring you into the group, and then post all you want. We appreciate all of our listeners and the support that they give us. Other than that, wow, the hour's up, and I guess I'm Michael from Arizona.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
And I'm AK Mike in Texas.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Parkflyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.